Good tidings, ladies and gentlemen of the lodge, and welcome back. We are serving up another Kingdom Hearts video today where we are discussing a man who comes up quite a lot over here on this channel, Luxu. Let's just be honest, Luxu can be a tough read. If he wasn't, then his reveal as Xigbar wouldn't have taken us all by surprise the way it did. He's clearly one of the bigger players on the board, so investigating his character seems necessary when trying to figure out where this story is headed. Today, I'll be building a case that Luxu will end up on the side of the Guardians before it's all said and done. Whether it's as a full-blown ally or just the enemy of our enemy, could go either way. However, for those of you who are familiar with my video about Luxu betraying the Master, I'm sure some of the dots are beginning to connect. We'll gloss over a couple of the points made in that video while looking over some new evidence as well. So, if you are ready to hear my case, buckle yourselves in because today is poised to be a wild one. In order for Luxu to become a member of the Guardians, this would be incumbent upon his betrayal of the Master. So to put it bluntly, let's remember that the Master himself named Luxu the traitor, and I don't think that betrayal has been fully realized yet. Luxu has also expressed much apprehension towards the Master's ideas and methods.
That Keyblade does have an eye in it. My eye, to be exact. Ew! But why?
And another point that I would add is that Luxu went against the Master's wishes when it comes to interference. The Master clearly instructed Luxu not to interfere, but we see him going against that several times, most notably his actions with the true Dandelion. But before that carries us into our next point, just a quick reminder that if you are looking for a more fleshed out and detailed opinion on why Luxu will inevitably betray the Master, again, feel free to check out this video. But with that out of the way, let's move on to the new stuff. Further evidence of Luxu turning coat would be his care for the Dandelions. It should go without saying, but the reason this is significant is because it's quite apparent that the Dandelions and Guardians of Light will be on the same side. Hell, a Dandelion even ended up becoming a Guardian of Light, so with this obvious truth out of the way, let's continue on. Luxu outright states his care for the Dandelions in Union Cross, saying that he will take it upon himself to watch over them. And say what you will, Luxu has been one step ahead of everybody in the Dark Seeker saga. He had knowledge that nobody else in play had, including Xehanort himself. And yet here we have a Ventus that's living, an Ephemer who is able to play his trump card, Brain making his way to Scala, more on that later, Laurium has been recompleted, Elrena has been recompleted, and then we have Skuld. As we know from the secret reports, in all likelihood, Skuld is Subject X, and it's Luxu who has been the one keeping tabs on her. So with all of the Dandelions either safely making it to Scala or the modern world, we have to ask ourselves, what is Luxu planning here that he ensured the safe arrival of all the Dandelions to a specific place? Let me also make clear that I know that the Dandelion survival was part of the Master's plan. But, seeing as Luxu is running interference and going against the Master's wishes, I'm willing to bet that he's got a different purpose for them than the Master. The same would reign true for the Foretellers, but I'm gonna save that for when we get there. Anyway, back to my point. I also find it peculiar that at the end of Kingdom Hearts 3, he would make the claim that his role is done, but meanwhile still have unfinished business with Skuld? Makes me think that maybe his role with the Master is done, but a role that he has set out for himself is still unfinished. Now, let's talk about everyone's favorite dandelion, or at least mine, Brain. There's no bringing up Luxu without talking about this scene anymore, especially when you consider that the meat and potatoes of it happened off screen. Now, first things first, whatever Luxu concluded in the scene, it led to Brain not only being able to keep his life, but also lead him to a place of influence in Scala ad Caelum. Not to mention, this is Brain we're talking about, the self-proclaimed virus in the Master's system, and Luxu ensured his survival by striking a deal? Why would Luxu take such an interest in the future allies of the Guardians of Light if he didn't have a plan to join or use them in the future? Especially Brain, the virus himself. My last point about Luxu and his potential for aligning with the Guardians of Light would actually be in the nature of his connections. Say what you will, but Luxu's actions in several ways line up with the thematic approach of the series. Let me explain. Luxu has connections to two groups, the Foretellers and the Dandelions. Luxu values these connections to the point that at the end of his role, the Foretellers and Dandelions all protected and/or returned, save for Ava. All of this from a guy who was told not to interfere. Now again, let's remember something. Luxu knows what the Dandelions are up to, at least to a certain extent. He had multiple opportunities to kill off or take care of the Dandelions who are in a sense trying to disrupt the Master's plan. Whether it's Skuld and him overseeing her captivity, whether it's the true Dandelion who, regardless of who they are, Luxu could have easily killed them off, as opposed to send them into a future away from an incoming apocalypse. And then lastly, we have this confrontation with Brain, where Luxu could have easily dealt with him without anybody else knowing. I'll say this again because I believe it's important. Luxu, with all his knowledge and his willingness to interfere, ended up getting us to a place where Elrena, Lorium, Skuld, Ephemer, Brain, and Ventus all either made their way to Scala or to the modern world. Needless to say, they survived, with Luxu, in a sense, successfully watching over them. Then we turn to the Foretellers. We see that Luxu is responsible for bringing them all back. But honestly, I find this as an interesting parallel to Sora. Of course, the two characters are very different, but at the end of the day, they both spent Kingdom Hearts 3 working towards a goal of bringing back and reuniting with their friends. And I, for one, don't think that's an accident. Luxu, simply put, very much like the Master, has his true intentions clouded in mystery. We do not know for sure whether or not he is motivated by selfish means, or if he really is trying to save some of his friends, like the Foretellers, from the Master's plan. And allow me to reiterate, I know it's the Master's plan for the Foretellers to come back and for the Dandelions to be safe. My argument in this video is that Luxu isn't ensuring these things to listen to the Master because he has proven, with his willingness to interfere, that he's not following the Master's orders for the Master's sake. I'm arguing that he has his own reasons for doing these things. As the Master's main pupil, he likely has learned how to play the long game and to hold one's cards for as long as they can manage. As much as I love to theorize about Luxu, it really is hard to put a finger on what he's up to. But if there's one thing I know for sure, when it all comes to a head, it's going to be insane. But anyway, ladies and gentlemen, that's all I'm going to have for you today. Be sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and drop into the comments section and let me know what you think. But until then, you all be good out there, keep crushing, be good to each other, and I will see all of you beautiful sickos and normies next time.